right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today for Identity Theft and Fraud, How to Protect Yourself. So we are recording today's webinar, so we will be able to send out a link to the recording sometime later this week, as well as some resources that I'm going to share with you. And again, thank you so much for joining us for How to Protect Yourself for Identity Theft and Fraud. My name is Dawn Watson. I work for GreenPath Financial Wellness, a national nonprofit financial wellness organization. I do want to thank Genesis for allowing me to host this webinar on such an important topic. So for our agenda today, we're going to talk about what is identity theft and fraud, how they can affect you, what are some of the common scams out there, and how to protect yourself. We'll talk about some next steps that you're going to want to do in case you're potentially a victim of your stolen identity or become a victim of fraud. So let's start out. What is ID theft? It's essentially the crime of taking someone else's information, their credit journey, or anything else that, or credit history, or anything else that identifies that person specifically, in order to further commit additional crimes beyond that. So you might be wondering if identity theft and fraud are the same, and often you hear those terms used interchangeably. And so identity theft is the act of stealing someone's identity, and then the fraud is actually using that identity to make a purchase or do something that would impact that individual negatively. So they are often, they really work hand in hand. They're not exactly the same thing. So again, the fraud is really the act of. So I want to actually show you these pictures. These are three different pictures that you can see on your screen. I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat by looking at these. Who do you think might be the person that is likely to steal your information? So again, if you want to put in the chat number 1, number 2, or number 3, that would be great. I have a 3, all of the above. I have all three. All right, wonderful. So the first image that you see there, that's actually a stock image from Google. It's the picture that, a lot of us tend to think about when you're thinking about someone that's going to hack in or try to steal your information without you knowing. They're hiding, their face is covered up, can't really tell who that person is. Picture number 2, these are 2 individuals that are accessing a secure building. So in this particular building, what's supposed to happen is each individual is supposed to badge in. But however, you can see this first person's coming in, they're kind of holding the door for the second. So the first person did badge in, but the second one, it doesn't have to, they're not going to. So that individual could definitely be coming into that facility to potentially try to steal some information or do something a little nefarious. Picture number 3, that person's name is Kevin Mitnick. He was a CEO of a company called Known B4. It was a security company that helped bigger companies with their security solutions. He actually did some jail time because he was really good at what they call social engineering. He actually started some of his fraud activities as a youth. He was making fake bus tickets so he could ride around LA using their bus system all day without actually having to pay. Then he got into what was called Bell South. If everybody or anybody remembers, that was a phone company. He got into their voicemail system by social engineering, and he liked to talk to people and pull information out of them in order to do fraud activities. So he did steal a lot of people's information, and again, he did spend some time in jail. He has since passed. But really, for those that put in really, any of these people could potentially be initiating some type of ID theft or committing some type of fraud. So let's talk a little bit about who's at risk. So everyone is at risk. There is some data that was pulled, 2023 data from a report from Consumer Sentinel Network. As you can see, there were 5.4 million reports made, and the top areas of ID theft and imposter scams. So it shows the age range also that really reported being a victim of ID theft. The majority of those individuals that reported it were in that 20 to 29 age group, 44% reported in that group. And then the age group 70 to 79, 25% reported being in this group being a victim. So there's no one age group that is immune to being at risk. So you might be wondering, okay, what is an imposter scam? Essentially, the imposter scam is when somebody is calling, texting, or emailing to convince you they are someone of authority. They may be using caller ID that could actually look like they're coming from an official government or business. And I just want to share something just to kind of reiterate how anybody could really be a victim of identity theft. So Andy Cohen, as many of you might know, he went onto the Today Show and shared out that he was recently a victim of an imposter scam. So essentially, he had lost his bank card, and he believes it was just coincidental, but he lost his bank card. And then the very next day, he received an email from what he thought was his bank's fraud department. So he clicked the link, which took him to what he thought was his bank page. And he logged into his account, which essentially allowed this individual, these pastors, these thieves, to gain his account information. So then they had called him and were acting like they were his bank. They were asking him questions like, what is your Apple ID? And he was like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound legitimate. He ended the call and hung up. So the next day, he received another call from what he thought was his bank. And they were saying that they had seen some reported theft activity on his account, and they just wanted to confirm if this activity was indeed his or not. So they now, as you recall, had access to his banking information. So they were literally giving him his information from his bank. And he's like, yes, that's mine. Yep, that was mine. So then they said they gave him one that wasn't, and said that they wanted to send him some codes to verify some information. When they sent the codes to him, they were initiating wire transfers without him realizing it. They had actually somehow, through something they sent him, was able to transfer phone calls from the bank, because the bank would call to verify he really wanted to do these transfers. They got him to transfer his calls to their number. So the calls never made it to him. They were pretending to be him. They acknowledged these wire transfers were indeed his, which they weren't. And he lost a lot of money. And so, as we previously said, no one is immune for being at risk. And if you're curious and want to hear his story, I'm going to pop the information into the chat, and you can watch that on the Today Show. So let's talk about other high-risk categories of individuals as well. So social media users do really tend to be a high-risk profile, just because you're getting information, you're posting information online. There is a few scams on social media that are kind of popular. One of them is what they call clickbait scam, and it's essentially where there's a picture that you get on your feed. And you click on the picture, you're like, oh, that's really cute, and let me see what that is. You click on it to open it up, and it's really potentially downloading software onto your whatever you're using to click on that, and installing a virus or a way for them to capture information. Another one that you might see on social media is, oh, you've won a free TV, or fill in the blank with whatever it is that they're saying you won. And if you click on that link in the post, it's going to ask you for some personal information. And it really starts out with really basic information like, oh, we need your name and phone number and address so that we can get you what you won. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, we need to get your social security number so that we can report to the IRS that this was something that you won. And then it's like, oh, then your bank information they might be asking for. And this is a way for someone to steal your identity and to be able to access your information. So just be really, really cautious if you're clicking on anything that coming from somebody that you actually know where it came from, or that you're not sharing information or giving information into those links. Another high risk group is our children. So the information that we're talking about in our webinar today, if you have children at home, or if you have young adult children that may not be living with you, They're adulting at this point, and we share this information with them too. Teach them how to spot some of these signs and teach them how to be aware so that they don't become a victim either. And then lastly, in this group of what we would consider high risk is online shoppers. They tend to be another high risk profile because we're essentially giving all of our personal information when we're shopping online. So your email is there, your name is there, you're going to put in your shipping address, you're going to put in your credit card information or other payment information. So if you're going to be doing online shopping, just make sure that you're actually on the proper website. So be careful about, just clicking on links. Actually type in the website so that you're sure that you're getting to the right place. That way you're not clicking on something that could potentially take you to a website that is not real. And, these individuals that are trying to steal our information, they're really good at making these, I guess they call them spoof websites, we'll call them, and they look really legitimate, but they're not. And what it means is, they're going to be able to get that information that you're entering and thinking you're making this purchase, stealing that information and utilizing it to be able to make purchases on that credit card or try to apply for different credit that you might not even be aware of is actually happening. So again, just be really careful. Make sure that the HTTPS is at the beginning or that the lock is showing on the site before you start entering in any information so that you can be more confident that it's going to be for the proper place. So let's talk a little bit about why this matters. You might think, okay, yes, this is all great information, but it's not going to happen to me. I shop in person, or I'm not in those demographics that you just shared as far as the population that reported the most. I'm really careful about what I do. I just want to share, this is a quote from actually a colleague of mine, and they were a victim. And they were saying when this happened, they felt helpless. They truly felt like there was nothing they could do. Their email was shut down immediately. Their phone was ringing off the hook, and they couldn't do anything to jump in and help out. They rely on their email, their task list is there, their calendar, their contacts, their phone numbers, their saved documents, processes, procedures, and they felt lost, like someone had taken their left hand. So, most of us have not just our financial information on our technology, our computers, our desktops, our iPads, our phones, but it's also all of those family photos or other important things that really matter to us that could be at risk if we're not really careful. So we're going to talk about some common scams. Scammers have gotten really, really clever, and each and every day they're showing that they're getting better at what they do. And some of the methods that they use to try to steal our information is by using email phishing, text scams, phone call scams, and ransomware. So we're going to kind of walk through each of these as we go. So let's discuss first the things that might set up some alarm bells in this particular email. This is actually an email that, again, someone on our team had received. Many of us are receiving a lot of shipments, from our online shopping, back to that we discussed earlier. And even though you can see that this says UPS, it's not actually UPS. So there are a few things that you can identify. The email address at the top is not an email address from UPS. So typically, it'd be ups.com.net. Also there's buttons, a lot of buttons there that are potentially going to get you to click on so that it'll take you to a page that is not really, again, a UPS page. And they also may have you download something to your computer unknowingly and take you to get information from you. So also, if you look at the delivery ready for delivery, there's not it's a string of numbers there. They're trying to get you to urgently do something. They want you to click on something. I think the most interesting one is if you look at that very bottom of it, that web address, that actual physical address, if you Google that physical address, this is what it takes you to. So that's another way to kind of help identify if these are potentially scams that you're receiving. And So this doesn't look like a UPS facility. So again, I would be very cautious. And then if you are expecting a package and you are concerned, find the actual UPS facility number in your area and call them and have that conversation with them first. So let's walk through another one of these. So a couple of things are jumping right out to me immediately. When you look at the subject line, there's some unusual spacing going on. It says the number and then it says that underscoring that random underscore number. That just is a little strange. Also, you notice that the email address, it's not from Best Buy or the Geek Squad. And then there's also, it talks about Norton and McAfee, but it says they're coming from the Geek Squad. And then there's the thing about that Norton Secure. You just want to be really careful when you see these things, because again, this looks like a scam. For sure it's a scam. And back down to the bottom, just like the previous one, you're going to see that address. So if you Google that address, it's going to take you here. It has nothing to do with the Geek Squad or getting some type of security onto your system. So here is a third one. So this one, I would love for you all to just put some ideas into the chat. What do you see that kind of would bring up a red flag on this one if this came to you? So if anybody wants to put some ideas into the chat, we'd love to share those out before I tell you. Not the Gmail logo. It hasn't been the Gmail logo for a while. Yes. Misspelled customer. Yeah, exactly. Not even your name. Yeah. So yeah, the email address. I mean, there's so many things in here that are kind of bringing up those red flags. Also, it's kind of that, urgency. Hey, you got to do something here. We've received these complaints. Yeah, grammar. All of those are red flags that this is not a legitimate email that's coming from actual business. And you're going to see those in most of those that you're going to come across. But again, err on the side of caution. If you think about it could be legitimate, obviously this one is way not looking legitimate. Just reach out to whomever the actual sender would be by using the contact information that you have for them and investigate a little bit further. So thank you everyone for popping into the chat with your thoughts on this one. So here is another example. This one is actually was sent over to me from Genesis. These were sent out, some employees and members received these. As you can see, these two are almost identical, other than the phone number that sent it and the website they're trying to get you to click on. This is definitely not Genesis. This is not their website. This is not them asking for this information. They would never ask you to confirm information in this manner. They would never ask you to confirm information over the phone. So it's really important, again, if you see these things, report them back to the credit union so that they know this is happening. I mean, they change, as you can see, there's two almost essentially the same, but those couple different things that are different. They'll keep trying, that's what they do, and hopefully they'll get a bite. Somebody will actually click on it. And then, again, it could easily take them to a site that looks like the Genesis site, but it isn't. Could get you to give them your banking information. Just, be back, just like Andy Cohen, he gave information without really realizing what he was doing and that it wasn't legitimate. And you could definitely become a victim. So let's talk about texting scams. They, again, somebody somehow obtained your phone number, they're texting you. They're typically going to be impersonating someone or something that you may know, and they can look like texts that are coming from, say, your employer asking for, or a friend or whomever asking for money or gift cards or whatever that they're trying to get from you. They could include suspicious links, trying to get you to click on that link. Text claiming that your information has been stolen or that purchases have been made. And then the other one is texting that you've won a sweepstakes, even though you never entered into any type of sweepstakes. And believe it or not, in 2023, there were 157,520 reports of fraud related to just sweepstakes to the FTC. That's a huge number. So yeah, these are just, again, think about all of these things when you're interacting with your text, your phone, your social media. All of these are potentially going to be red flags that you can hopefully identify. And yes, somebody put in, isn't that an example of texting scam? But what Genesis was, yes. So, and then here's another one that we're going to walk through on this text. And I've received several of these in my time. These are the whole, we've got a UPS package waiting for you. It's arrived at our warehouse, but they need some more information. Again, this is a big red flag. You would typically need to sign up for alerts if there was a package that you're waiting for. If they couldn't deliver a package, there probably should be, would be contacting the sender of the package, because how do they know that you even knew it was being shipped by UPS or the US, or in this case, the US Postal Service? This is something that, again, if you find that you're getting this, delete these, just immediately delete them. Don't go into clicking on these links, just like we talked about on the other ones. If you think that there is a concern, if you've purchased something that you're expecting and you're like, well, could this be legitimate? Go find the information from when you made the purchase, find out who the carrier was that it was from. Typically those people that you're purchasing from are going to give you tracking information so that you can track the package, and then you can contact the carrier of whoever is supposed to be delivering it so that you have that information. So again, don't reply to it, don't click on the links, just delete these things. So let's go ahead and talk about phone call scams. I know, not everybody's getting a lot of phone calls. However, there are different things that you want to be aware of. A lot of times the scammers are going to be making these phone call scams by impersonating someone else. Again, so some of the common ones are like your TV provider or your internet provider. They might call and let you know that they have a great new deal for you. They got this wonderful bundle that's going to be able to save you a ton of money. In these cases, don't give them your information. If they are your provider, they should already have your information, and your provider isn't, they don't need you to give it to them. I would say, hang up and verify. I have a colleague that she was contacted by her internet provider offering this amazing discount, and she was a little concerned, so she disconnected, called her internet provider back, and talked to an employee there who was actually told her it was a legitimate one in this particular case, that they were offering these new opportunities to lower the bill by changing some plans. And it really worked out well for her. And again, if they're legitimate, no employee of that TV provider or that internet provider is going to be upset that you're going to call back through a phone number that is legitimate. So definitely do your due diligence. Also, another one that is impersonated a lot is Medicare, Medicaid. Or insurance fraud as a whole. Somebody gets a hold of your information and they try to use it to actually receive services, and then you get the bills unaware that this has actually happened. Follow up with Medicare.gov or Medicaid, or follow up with your insurance carrier if you think that you're getting bills that you never received the services for, to have a conversation with them right away so that you can still maintain your coverage, but yet not be getting sent to collections because you're getting these bills that you never received services for. Lastly, if somebody's saying that they're selling you virus protection, just like that previous notification that we walked through that was supposed to be from the Geek Squad or Norton Advise, if it really sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Just hold true to that. If you wanted to go in and get something from some virus protection, there's a lot of legitimate places you can go to, the local, your Best Buy or whoever, to try to get information about what is the best product for you and your situation. So lastly, let's talk a little bit about ransomware. You might be wondering, what is ransomware? Essentially, it's a cyber attack where criminals will gain access to your machine via one way. They might be impersonating somebody from Geek Squad. Let's say that you actually have a relationship with them, to get you to give them access to your computer, and then they lock it down. They threaten to expose the information or delete the information. And in lieu, they want something from you. Typically, they're going to want some type of Bitcoin cryptocurrency because they're untraceable. They might ask for your credit card to actually try to charge something that way. This is another way that individuals can gain access to information and really provide a lot of threat to you based on what's available on our technology now. So ransomware, this information that you're seeing on your screen, this is from Sophos. They're actually help when someone is actually targeted by a ransomware attack. This information is a little bit older from 2021. They found that after a ransom was paid, it's still very unlikely that you're going to get all of your data back. Only about 8% of victims recovered all of their data after paying ransom. And again, that data isn't just your banking information, things like that. It could be those photos, those other things that are really important to you. So 29% got less than half of their data after paying the ransom. And on average, only 65% recovered data, period, after paying the ransom. So it's just really important to be diligent about how you're protecting your technology so that you're not giving, unbeknownst to you, access to this information or to your system so that somebody could actually do this. And that leads us to our next topic, is how to protect yourself. So essentially, a locked door, it isn't always going to stop a criminal, but it's definitely better than an unlocked door. So think about that as far as your technology is concerned. Wouldn't it be better to ask to force, somebody to forcibly enter and get into there to get it than just having passwords that are potentially easy to guess? So you want to make sure that you have strong passwords. Be conscientious. Like, don't use your kids' names for your passwords. If they have access to your social media, they can potentially see that and try to use those as passwords. Don't use simple ones. It's winter time now, so don't use winter 2024 as the password. So just be really cautious, when you're trying to determine what those passwords do look like. Be vigilant. Change your password often. Look for signs that your computer may have been compromised. And some of those signs could be if your password isn't working. A hacker could gain access to your account, and they often change that password to lock you out. So if your normal password doesn't work and you're confident you know what that password is, you could have been hacked. You could go in and reset your password, but that doesn't change the fact that they could have already been in there. If you find that your computer's performance is slowing down, now, of course, we all have times when our computers lag, but if it's an all of a sudden slowdown, that could be a sign that your device has been infected with password stealing malware. If you find your information on the dark web, hackers might be selling your passwords to other criminals, which puts you at risk of additional identity theft and additional fraud. Again, if you do receive ransomware messages where they're trying to get access to it into your system or getting you to pay so that you would get your information back. And then your friends and family, if they start receiving weird messages online, if a hacker gains access to your account, they often try to scam your friends and family. Pay attention if someone tells you that they received a strange message from your account, from your social media account or email or whatever it might be. So it's really, really important to be diligent and aware of these signs so that you can act on that very, very quickly. So another big way to protect yourself is not just using the strong passwords, but using a password manager. So the iPhone has one built in, Google has one built in. There's also ones like LastPass or OnePass that you could use. There's so many different password managers. You'll only need to remember the password to the password manager, and then it'll create secure passwords for all of your other accounts that you can connect to the password manager. So this can be a really great thing. You can, the password managers, they use advanced encryption to protect your credentials. So it's a great way to make sure that you're using different passwords for all of your things. So if they get hold of one, they're not going to be able to get a hold of everything. And that encryption is going to be valuable for you as well. Also, don't just protect your accounts, protect your devices. Use passwords on your phones or your computers. Um, so, if your devices, let's just say that you don't have one on your phone and you drop your phone and you don't realize that you've dropped it, or you've set it down and didn't pick it back up and you leave, and then all of a sudden somebody comes along and they now have access to everything that's on there. And you know having that password, or using a biometric, like if you can use your fingerprint or your Face ID, which is going to be unique to you. Those are another great way if you prefer not to have a password. I use my Face ID on my Apple products. It just is faster and easier to use, and that will help protect those devices as well. And then try using longer passphrases instead of just a password. They're hopefully going to be easier for you to remember, because again, you don't want to do something that's super easy to guess, or potential for them to be able to try to figure out from other pieces of the puzzle that they have access to, and like I said, your social media. So maybe use a song lyric, a movie quote, a TV show quote. So something that's personal to you will make it easier for you to remember. The longer, the better. Also, the complexities will help. So if you have uppercase, lowercase, maybe throw a number at the end or a special character. A lot of times, in nowadays, most places are going to require you to do that when you're creating a password. They're going to tell you it's considered a strong password, or if it's a weak password. Take that into consideration. If they're telling you that, try to really amp up what you have in there. And again, don't be reusing your passwords amongst all different devices, and then don't just keep adding a different number on the back end of your passphrase when you have to go in and change those passwords. Change the whole password. So more ways to protect yourself is really be vigilant. First take stock. Are there ways that you're currently putting yourself at risk, or ultimately, are there ways that you've worked to protect yourself? I've seen people sharing in the chat some things that they're doing. What do you do? If you want to share something in the chat about how you've protected yourself, I'd be happy to share that out with the group. I think that would be a great way for people to continue to learn. And then also make sure you're steering clear of those suspicious links and websites. Remember, if there's that HTTPS, that means it's secure. You can also look for that little lock to make sure it's secure. Next, don't give out your personal information to a caller or through email. Remember, you can always hang up and call back to a verified number, or you can log into the actual website to make sure that you are giving your information or looking at information from a legitimate place. And when I say don't give out your personal information through call or email, I also would encourage you not to give out this information, like your passwords or that, to your family or friends. Although, I don't expect that they would be creating some grief for you, having you become a victim. You never know where they're going to put that password to that website, where they might write it down because they can't remember it because it's not their passphrase. They might write it down and somebody might find it and somehow they figure out what it's for. And lo and behold, you are now a victim unbeknownst to you. Next, delete unknown emails and don't download those attachments. If you see one of those emails that we shared, something that looks really, really strange, those misspellings, inaccurate addresses, just immediately get those things deleted. Also, it's important to protect not just your devices and your online accounts, but your physical documents as well. Shred them. If you have information that has account numbers or other things that would help identify who your financial institution is, and that would allow somebody to potentially try to get you to give them more information because they have some information, that is another important thing to keep in mind. And if you can buy a inexpensive personal shredder, sometimes local financial institutions and libraries might offer a shred day that you could also use. And then also limit your exposure. Be careful when you're online. If you're not at home, make sure you're on a secure network. Don't go on to an unsecure network and start going into your banking information. So I'm going to look at, there's a couple chats that are coming through. Somebody put in, be aware of how much information you're sharing through social media. Absolutely. And not just you, your family, your kids, they might be sharing information. I mean, like if you're going on vacation and you're posting all of your beautiful photos on social media, just tell somebody that your house might be empty and that you could be a victim that way as well. Somebody wrote they have CreditWise alerts to know when there's charges on their credit report and freezes on all 3 credit reports. We're going to come back to that. Enable protection from malicious sites at your home router or mesh system. So yeah, thank you for sending those through the chat. So let's talk a little bit about how you might also know that you're a victim. So again, if you see unexplained charges on your accounts, and I'm sure most people have probably come across this if they have any type of credit cards. You know, you see a charge come through, you contact the credit card company, they tell you they're going to shut down the credit card, send you a new one with a new account number, they're going to initiate a fraud. And then once they've investigated it, they're going to hopefully remove those charges, and typically they do. But again, if you see them, don't delay, immediately follow up with whoever that account is with to investigate further. So if you're receiving paper bills from your creditors and then all of a sudden you're not receiving them, that could be a problem. Ideally, don't receive them in the mail. You know, somebody could just grab that stuff right out of your postal box if it's not locked. Having them online accessible is probably a safer way to do it. But again, they're going to be able to get your information. They could change your address so that, you know, where those things are being sent, you won't get the bills. You might not realize if they start applying for credit in your name because they had access to more information through some of those pieces that come through our mail system. Next, yeah, if you're receiving something that you might not have actually requested. So if you get a credit card and you didn't actually apply for a credit card and it's not like a replacement because your expiration date has come about, this is probably an indication that there's something to investigate further. And you might be a victim of somebody opening credit in your name and they were hoping to just grab that card out of your mailbox before they did it, if for some reason they send it to that mailbox. Also, if you're denied credit for no real logical reason, if you're someone who takes care of your credit, you have a good credit score, and you apply for something and all of a sudden you're denied and you're like, why was I denied? That could be a sign that you need to check your credit report and see if there is something going on there that is, you've been a victim of identity theft. So definitely be aware of these signs. So also, if you see inaccuracies on that credit report, you're going to want to look at monitoring that. If you don't monitor your credit report, please, please, please do. You can get your credit weekly now through annualcreditreport.com. We highly recommend that you pull all 3 of them on a regular cadence so that you can keep tabs on what's being reported there. This is considered a soft inquiry, so it's not going to impact your credit score, but you're going to be able to see what's on there and determine if there is something that's inaccurate so that you can handle that accordingly. So if you identify that you are a victim, what do you do? So first, contact government authorities. You can go to identitytheft.gov and fill out their information and make copies of your identity theft police report and the FTC complaint so that you can have that for future follow-up when you may or may not need to use those resources. Also, contact your creditors and your financial institution, letting them know that your identity has been stolen. Verify if there's been any charges that you are unaware of with those, discuss closing those accounts and accessing and getting new accounts issued to you. Hopefully that is not going to be the case because, of course, that would be a nightmare to have to go through, but something that's super important. That's why, keeping track of all of your accounts is really important. Keeping track of what is coming out of your accounts as electronic fund transfers. So if you have to change the account that it's coming from, you can do that and you won't find that you missed the bill or you missed something because you forgot that you had scheduled that to automatically come out of your bank account or off a credit card or whatever it might be. So really keeping good records in advance could help if you are finding that you are a potential victim. Also, again, back to the credit bureaus, and I said that we were going to come back to this one. Again, there's TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax that collect information on us. You're going to want to let them know that it has happened. One thing that you can do is what's called a credit freeze. And essentially that's when you're limiting access to your credit file to all three of those credit bureaus. It's free. It is going to require anytime somebody applies for credit using your information, it would require you to lift that freeze. So that also includes you. So if you know that you're going to be applying for credit, you would want to lift the freeze so that you can actually apply and that credit will go through and not be rejected because of the freeze. But that's a great way. Also, you could consider putting a fraud alert on your credit report. So if you have been a victim, it's a security alert that when somebody pulls your credit report, they're going to be advised to take next steps to verify identity before any type of credit application would be processed through. That way, they're not going to be able to open up new credit. If you didn't want to freeze it, the fraud alert would identify those individuals. Yes, a credit freeze is essentially the same as locking it. Yes. And then once you've done that, then it's time also to contact your local authorities, going to the police, filing a report with them so that it's on the record there as well. And then again, I'm going to reiterate this, I know I just said it, but really keep good records. So not just the records before, but all the way through this process. Who did you talk to? When did you talk to them? What was discussed? What steps did you take? Keep all of your documents together. All of this is going to be extremely important for you to be able to take action and get these things corrected, get things removed. So you'll want to do your due diligence and tracking everything. So I know that we've gone through a lot. I am going to go through the chats and see what's put in the chat, but also if you have a question, you're welcome to put those into the chat. And let me just see what's on here. Yeah, data breaches. Somebody had put in about Xfinity. They had a data breach, and then somebody started fishing through to find other information to get into their account. Data breaches, you're going to be notified, unfortunately, not as quickly as we would like to be notified from whoever data was breached, but they're going to encourage you to also report, watch those credit reports. If you're fearful, that's if you haven't already put a freeze or an alert on, you can put that on there as well at that time. Any other questions or anything else you want to share with the group about an experience that you had and how you are now more diligent or aware? Is it good to have LockGuard? So are you referring to like LifeLock or some identity theft repair program? If that's okay. So I mean, there are, some places that'll legitimately help you do that legwork. You basically have to make that decision if it's worth the cost for you not to have to go through the frustrating phone calls and filing those reports and everything. I mean, they're going to do similar things to what you do. Also, some of them I think come with some financial backing. If you're in a victim and it's determined X, they might help cover some losses. I mean, do your due diligence. I mean, there are legitimate companies that do that for sure. Let's see what else is it. Yeah, if you're having issues logging into your account, I would definitely contact whoever the account is with and just confirm that it's not a technology issue on your end, like there's some lagging or something going on with your technology. ask about, any activity that's been happening. If it's something you can do locally, I would physically go there and have that conversation in person. I think that's going to be easier because you can let them know and they can help you probably a little bit easier if you could do that in person. But yes, I would absolutely follow up and see if it is something to do with technology or if it's legitimately something to do with um, your account being compromised. Um, as far as the credit reporting agencies, if you feel that you want to put the fraud alert on or you are a victim, you're going to want to contact all three. So there's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So you definitely want to connect with all three of them, put your alert on, and get that. And if there's something that you're disputing, you'll want to provide them the documents of what you've already done. Like I said, the FTC report, the police report, the steps that you've taken for that fraud reporting so that they can actually go through and investigate on their end, removing any information that might be out there. I mean, if you do have any questions about, you know, how to pull the credit report, how to read the credit report, or looking for some additional information, I'm going to pop our website, greenpath.com/genesis. We have an entire section under our financial wellness tab on our website that talks about fraud and identity theft. You can also call us at 877-274-7580. We would be happy to talk with you about what is going on and next steps that you could be taking. We can help you read that credit report again if you have questions about that. Also, you can contact Genesis. So if your financial institution is Genesis, definitely reach out to them. GenesisCU.org is their website. You can find some amazing articles on there. I put a link in there to some of their blogs regarding scams and identity theft. You can call them, the 800-521-8440 number, to talk with somebody if you're concerned about one of your accounts with them. They would absolutely be happy to help you as well. And yes, we will be, everybody that registered, you're going to get a copy of the recording in your email. It'll be by Friday, as well as some resources that I'm going to send to you in that recording. So yes, absolutely. I'm going to send that out to everyone. And you're welcome to share that with others if you'd like. So are there any other questions? Again, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you're walking away with some information that you can immediately activate on and feel a little more confident in some security measures that you are taking already or that you will take to protect yourself. And hopefully you will be able to secure that and passphrases, secure your data, make sure you're protected. Very welcome. Everybody have a wonderful day.